Hey, it's Kellen.
Tyson here.
Of course, AL.
This is Diversified Game, a podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective. On this episode, we're going to talk about the generational gap in business and the current landscape and easy ways to overcome it. So let's break this down.
This is
Diversified Game.
A podcast giving entrepreneurial advice from a diverse and inclusive perspective with Kellen.
He may agree, he may oppose, and it's more than just race, it's about, ideas.
Tyson.
When you're going against the odds, you've got to be creative, you've got to innovate, you've got to stand out.
And AL.
Focus more on execution and application and less on excuses.
So, let the game begin.
Old versus young, new versus the old school ways of doing it. There's a gap when you're trying to talk to Blockbuster about this new business Netflix coming in, and Blockbuster doesn't want to hear it. So we're going to break that down for y'all people today, giving you the game.
What videos on demand? Are you kidding me?
Get out of here.
Oh, man, we're good.
Get out of here.
Yeah, we got these videotapes, bro. And they can come get these DVDs and they can bring them
What
back.
are you smoking, huh? What are you smoking? People are gonna do that at the houses. Get out of here. They'll never do that. And 5 years later, kids don't even know what a Blockbuster is. They just think it was a good time at the box office for a movie now. You know what I mean? Black Panther was a blockbuster. Man, man. But so the way that I'm looking at it is pretty much like there's a lot of businesses that, forget about being future minded. They're not even now minded. Like they can't even handle the current landscape, let alone think about how they're going to innovate their business on the next step. And I feel like that is such a disadvantage when you get stuck and you think that your business has reached its peak. I feel like businesses and people should always be in forever learning modes.
Yeah, totally agree. Especially, oh my goodness, with where we're at right now, speaking of now versus then thinking and future thinking, businesses cannot be more set up to win, especially with the landscape of where social media is. Like it was cool when it was coming up, but like I don't even think that we've seen the full capabilities of what social media can do.
Absolutely not.
People connections, businesses. I mean, I take what we've done, and we're still brushing the surface. And like, oh my goodness, I'm excited for what's to come.
And if you're not in the future, you're already behind. And that's where when you were talking about First last night on the BS3 sports interview that we were doing, that's such a you have to have courage to be able to say, I want to do first. Mm-hmm. And I think with all of us, we find ourselves naturally, I don't know if it was the Jetsons that just inspired us to say, this is our Star Trek or whatever it was. But I mean, I was on the phone the other day with the IVR phone company and I'm telling them what I want. And they're like, you know what? We don't even have that. It sounds good. And then, of course, to save face, they're like, but there have been talks. I'm like, there's talks of a lot of things. But let's talk about this, me maybe helping y'all, because I told them a solution on what I wanted, how it could be done. And they're like, oh, you're right. And so it took them a couple of days. They came back and then I told them something else. I said, that's close, but that's not exactly what I want. But let's work on this price. Maybe you guys should be paying me. You know what I mean?
Straight. I'll be the beta.
Yeah, for real. And bring the influencer, aspect to it too, because since this hasn't been done, and that's a conversation, they're like, well, then they get into the thing of, well, can you afford this? And I'm like, you're talking about a couple $100 a month. And if your system is really that good, yeah. And I told them how I would afford it. And they were like, oh, that really makes sense. I'm like, yeah, it does. So
Back
you
off me.
yes. So when we talk about, to the older generations, and we don't want this to be like we hit them over the head, but my thing is we're all over 30 now. We're not sitting at the kid table anymore. We're at the adult table. And we aren't trying to put grandma in that private room that no one comes to visit but once when they come by the house. But if you don't move over, it's get down or lay down because your way is old and outdated. So you need to come learn some new tricks. And shout out to all the seniors, especially, who learn those new tricks. But there's still some people at heads of a lot of organizations that, and I'm gonna call out especially the black ones, the Boule and all that. I don't have a problem with the Boule. Jack and Jills and Cotillions are cool as long as I ain't got to pay for them, because I think it's better ways to spend money and time. But you need to scoot over because we don't want to run you over. But work with us and give us that wisdom too that you have, so we can do, we know the pitfalls and not to buy the, Lamborghini or whatnot, because you could rent that nowadays and, stunt for a day or a month, and it's a lot cheaper than buying it.
Right. And to that point, I would even say it's about the simple fact of, if we don't move the businesses forward, they won't exist. And it's only a matter of time before a lot of these businesses that won't play catch up are extinct. Toys R Us, Blockbuster. Who else is shutting down stores all around and getting busy? Was JCPenney? Caldors. Anybody remember Caldors?
Yeah, Caldors. Sears.
Kmart's is dropping off the landscape a little bit. Kmart.
Man.
The Wiz, Circuit City.
Circuit City? Oh. Yeah. They couldn't imagine a world where people would rather click and not leave their house. And just because it wasn't happening then, but people are already starting to do it and finding the convenience. And one thing people have to remember is, no one in this society, especially the US, no one in this society is above the laziest option. And that's the common denominator with our general population, is they want whatever is the most convenient for them. The reason why corner stores were called convenience stores is because they were only a walk away. You didn't have to go across the city. And that's why convenience stores came on the rise. So it's the same, again, it's era by era, but it's the same mentality that every era has found a way to capitalize on. It's, how do we make this more convenient, a little bit easier, and allow for the laziest person in the world to use our product. The next thing we're going to have are remote controls implanted in our heads, so that way we just think about the channel we want to go to. Like, that's in that art, and on some level right now that already exists, right? We are in, also even just the remote control like I have in my house, or Google Home, which we have the Google Home thing or whatever, and it's like you say what you want. Like, I don't even got to press buttons anymore. Kids don't have, this is maybe a detriment, it may not, but kids don't even have to really learn anymore. If they learn the speech patterns, they don't have to read or look at the remote and figure out numbers. They could just say, Alexa, go to Baby Shark, and Alexa will find Baby Shark for them and pop it on. Like, what? You're 3, So, which is also very annoying, because now you got 3-year-olds that can control your house with their voice, and that's like I don't know how many times I want to hear Baby Shark, or or the Backyardigans coming back, and you know what I mean. But just thinking about that, the lowest common denominator is always our laziness in the United States. So anything that innovates that is probably going to win.
Well, I don't know if you guys have seen. There's this video floating around social media, but I believe there's like some engineer, tech guy. He's developing some type of software that allows him to scour the internet in seconds and give him answers. So yeah, they were sitting in an interview, and the interviewer asked him some complicated math problem, and he was able to tell the interviewer back the answer in a matter of seconds because of some very intricate program he developed that allowed him to peel through so many internet pages, find the answer, and it like literally tells him in his ear, and then he.
Wow. So that reminds me a little bit of like, and this is probably a rudimentary version of it, but like the translation software that exists now, where as the person is talking, it translates for you into the language you can understand, and then you can answer back. And as you're talking, it translates into what they understand. Like it's that quick and that easy, but it's almost like the what Tower of Babel. I think it actually is called Babel, I think. But you just it's that now where we don't even have to necessarily learn other languages. If we have this with us, we'll always be able to speak your language. And again, speaking to the laziness of not wanting to learn another language, like, yeah, I want to talk to you, but like, I don't know if I want to go through all that like learning stuff. Like, it's not that serious. So, like, so again, like the common denominator, laziness comes back to it. Convenience comes back to it. What saves me time and energy comes back to it. And we keep bumping our heads with the previous generation being used to doing things a certain way, i.e. always printing papers out, right? Why Blue Matters and I think Coleman PR firm, like we're green company. We try to use digital as much as possible, footprints with paper and different things like that. So we typically do our documents in PDF forms or a link that you can go to and see everything, and to avoid printing, which is more than sufficient for meetings most of the time, because we either have our iPhones, our iPads, our tablets, or something like that. And the person that we're meeting with typically has a laptop or whatever where they can pull it up. So there's really no need to print anything. But you still run into companies that want to print 36-page documents, and they're not writing anything on them. It's not, they just print it so they can look at it. And then they're gonna toss it, because then they go, all right, great, that's the plan. And then they toss it, and we're like, okay, well that was really unnecessary to even do that. You know, we know the plan. We're gonna execute it. You could have just read along and saved the paper. But that's what we're running into with the old mentality of just not getting up to date on things that not only help your business streamline, but help the environment too.
Well, you can blame the government for that, because for RFPs that they want you to print out 200 plus pages, or recently had an institution say they can't write a check unless they have a handwritten signature, and I'm like, really? We gotta have a handwritten signature in 2000, and this is almost 2019. We got to have a handwritten signature. And so, but they're like, oh, but that's California law, and it's a big institution. And I'm like, okay, so the government is going to want to go green and go more digital and change their laws, which,
that's wild to me, because in the military in 2010, we were signing things digitally. Like, so for the military to be able to sign things digitally and move along and authenticate signatures and all that stuff, like, it's not that hard, because from being I can say, like, the military typically is one of the slowest moving things, because we have extended chains of command we have to go through. We have to talk to this person, who has to talk to that person, who has to talk to this person, who has to send it to the commander to get something simple done, like longer gym hours, like, so if we can figure out electronic signatures, and that is a government organization, then we should be able to figure it out on a level that helps the environment and helps move businesses to streamline things. Like, that's crazy. That's wild, Cal. That is wild.
Yeah, because your military might be working with the Russians. I don't know. Maybe that's what California is worried about.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, who knows? But you know, but to bring it back, that we need change, and there's so many organizations doing things the old way, and no one's gonna feel sorry for you when you're out of business because you ran the company. You know, you had your heyday in the 70s. That was great. In the 80s, that was great. But now that it's a new era and you still don't understand, you know, something as simple as Skype, you know, and that you think that Facebook is the be all to social media, and that, you know, why would I
Right.
pay someone just to play on my Facebook and whatnot? That mentality, it has to go. You're doing your company a disservice if you have it.
Right.
And there's plenty of youth who want to get busy and show their worth. Like Nipsey said, man, he always knew he was great. He just never had a platform. Give the kid a
Right.
platform, man, so he can do his thing or she can do her thing.
Now, when it comes to the social media aspect of business, and definitely want to touch on this, is you're exactly right. They look at it as playing around on social media because it seems to be a kid's thing in their mind, right? Like that's a kid's thing. Why would I pay someone to do a kid's thing? Not realizing the reach, impact, and that virality happens on social media. Like that's literally where it happens. Virality happens on social media. All of those events that are recorded in real life equate to nothing until they're put on Facebook, until they're put on Instagram, until they're put on Twitter. So things go viral. It's not just because it was a shocking video that someone recorded and kept on their phone. They had to put it somewhere for it to be consumed. And it's a detriment to your organization because you're not impacting the very lives that you said you set out to help. And because you can only reach so many people that you can shake a hand with, but you can reach so many more that know how to use a.
Even with the scrutiny that they're going through, like you gotta give Zuck and his team and all the people that work with them some credit. They've been collecting data for like 10 plus years. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
It's a marketer's playground. Are you kidding me?
Right.
We now know that John in California likes sports, but he also likes to eat steak and read men's health, and we have access to these type of people without having to go to California. You know what I mean?
Right. Finding the human cross sections of people is one of the greatest things I think social media did do from a marketing perspective. Is we're able to see someone who does yoga and Pilates also likes Cardi B. Like we're able to see that, you know what I mean? Whereas before, people were more often pigeonholed by appearance. Now we're taking social media profiles and we're seeing the behind the scenes of what people don't publicly show, right? We're saying, oh, you like 50 Shades of Grey, but you also go to church 7 days a week. Interesting. I mean, like, you know, okay, you're single, you're a single female or male or non-binary, and but I also see that you're into polyamory.
Right.
Okay.
But
maybe you won't.
You know what it is.
Maybe you won't be single for
what
long. We toss that ad over to you. You might not be single for long. we can find that cross section. Yeah.
No, for sure. But you know what it is. You know, some folks, you know, they like their Grace Christian. You know what I mean?
They like their Grace Christian. Amen. You mean Christian Grade had nothing to do with the Bible?
Man.
Sorry, man.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Exactly. Like, you know, you see and also what you'll find out is, and I know this will probably stir the pot a little bit, but it is what it is. You'll see a lot of people on far right conservative leaning racist pages that also support police that also are part of the NRA that also support nonprofits that help inner city kids, which makes you think
What?
right, and specifically black inner city kids, which will make you kind of peel back and go, I wonder if that organization is actually helping black kids then, like, because you have three things that would almost be a surefire disqualifier on wanting to help them, yet you're helping this organization that is their mission statement is to help minority youth. It makes you think either you're hiding something, like maybe those other three you're hiding and you're using this as your public face, or you know something about that organization that other people may not, you know? So technology, social media, forward thinking, analytics really can help you nail down your business, customer segmentation for sure, and propel you forward because of the knowledge that we're getting both front facing and behind closed doors about people.
Yeah. And some of that, people have this thing of privacy. I've never seen, you don't have privacy on the internet.
Nope.
So don't be on the internet if that's what you're looking for. And if I remember working with Synology and they say people like this because no one can see what folks are looking up. And I just assume that all these people are perverts that are, having these servers just for that reason. So I'm like, you need to have some business.
Right.
And that wasn't the case for everyone, but I was probably more, looking at my coworkers like, why are you guys so into no one can look into your stuff? You make, all of them make many just amounts of money for a tech company that they should not have made, with degrees, or if they had no degrees, it didn't matter. It was like an embarrassing amount of money. But you guys really love this technology for what? I don't know, because you have nothing that private, and I love the trolls, Ty. We were talking the other day how the guy was, we're gonna hold your stuff hostage and expose you. And I'm like, please do what you gotta do.
Please do. Right.
Expose me. I'm writing books on the stuff that people would hide. Like I could care less what you think of me, and everyone who knows me knows I probably talk too much. So you're gonna do what exactly? So but the old way versus the new. Hopefully somebody got out of this like, wow, I need to, that millennial I was talking to, I might need to hire them. And yeah, you do, because it's a gig economy, and I think labor is so cheap right now that it'd be beneficial for if you got an old system, do something. And hold on, I wasn't going to name drop, but I am going to name drop now.
Okay.
There's a group here in Seattle, only black business club, called Tabor 100. And this group has over $300,000 in the bank since I've been in Seattle, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Their website, if you went to Tabor 100, when I would refer people to the site, they'd be like, I don't even know how to go to a meeting. It's so jacked up.
Right.
The leadership in as far as connection, and I'm not just putting it on like the president. I'm talking about everybody who rocks with the president on the board. It is so old school. It can't be effective for the masses. It's effective for the president. It's effective for the board, and the people who have been around for, it's been around for more than a decade.
Right.
But one guy told me it took him 7 years through this group just to get a contract. Who in business is going to keep going to something that's not loyal to them? But they're so in their way that they, it's pretty much, I would invite young people to this thing and people would say, those folks don't even like us. And I never got that. But it wasn't that they didn't like them personally. They don't really like new ideas. And when they hear a good new idea, they don't want to pay for it.
So now, my thing is do you think the resistance to upgrade you, as Beyonce might say. Like, do you think that resistance comes from the fact that they think that new means difficult to learn? Because maybe they don't understand that, like, nowadays new technology means easier to use, like
True that. No,
easier
true
to
that. No.
easier, more efficient, less complicated than what you're used to, right? Remember, like, building websites, you used to have to know a bunch of code, but then you had
Word.
WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Weebly, all these things coming out where, anyone could essentially build a site and have a web presence and not having to know code and all this different stuff. So, like, if you were like, oh no, well, I don't know about, hiring someone to do our website on WordPress, I don't know about that, you missed out because it was so much simpler, you know it was just new. You didn't have to be scared of it. So,
I
Right. Word up.
I think not just to learn, because the site looked, and until like maybe last year, it
mm.
looked like it was made on GeoCities for real.
Oh my! Wow. You took it back.
Jeez,
Wow.
man.
Kel. Oh
Huh.
And
my
that's
goodness.
I hadn't even
and
heard
that was
that
the,
in like
yeah,
forever.
and I told them that, and actually they said I wasn't too far off. I said that's
Ah,
the first place that I learned how to build a site, and we're
oh
supposed
my
to
Yes,
be
god.
a
amen.
respected Black business group, but the problem is everyone is scared and at the mercy of the president, who I don't blame the president for having weak members,
Right.
because you know what I mean? Because the president is only one person, just like Trump. You can't
Hmm.
blame just Trump for being an idiot. You got to blame the people that are around him who won't tell him, yo, you're running us into the ground. None of us are going to have a legacy because of
Hmm.
you. So
Right.
for them in the GeoCity site, this is where the loyalty factor came in. Here you have me and multiple people who this is what we do, and they go outside the box to hire. This is a
Mm.
Black business group to hire somebody. First, it was outside of the community, which they've hired before, for like
Right.
their and they've given things outside of the community, but you're supposed to be a Black business group. Then you give it to
Right.
someone still who isn't, I won't say young and hip, knows websites, but still doesn't know enough to make it where it's a blah. You
Yeah.
all got
Right. Optimized.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so you're like, how can you give it to the person who's the least qualified, even if they do look like you just can't give it to anyone. And then of course, my ideas are just sounds great, but sounds expensive, and we don't really know that guy, or he's a problem because he's going to tell us what we don't want to hear, and how, on things that we don't know, so we're not even going to
Hmm.
respect it, even though I see what he's doing. People tell me he's great, and all of us go through that with somebody in an elder
Hmm.
position, and you don't want to be
Yep.
disrespectful to him, but you just want
Yep.
to tell them, I could help you if you let me, but you gotta, like Frank Sinatra said, you gotta let me do it my way.
To your website point, it's very interesting because people are still kind of catching up to speed with where they should be as a business, as an organization, as this, as that. That still don't understand the importance of it. You know, Ty was talking about WordPress and some of the other content management systems, but there's definitely something to be said about them. And this is not a plug or a shameless plug, but freaking like something to the tune of like 88% of all websites on the internet are WordPress based. I mean, that's got to speak for something, not for
Yeah,
nothing.
yeah, it speaks for the times that we're in. But what's the okay? Because I used to hate WordPress, and I still hate Wix, but I used to hate WordPress because you didn't
Hmm.
have to code at all,
Right.
and there was goods amount of money and knowing how to code a little bit. But how now the new thing is on websites, if you don't have a secure site, it looks like you done been hacked by everybody. So
right.
so now companies are like, wait, I got to pay some extra money for secure. And what does that really secure me? Because that doesn't even give you the top security. There's always an add-on, and we know GoDaddy will be in GoDaddy's going to court for being a monopoly sometime soon because any of their competition they buy. But we're all tied in to GoDaddy, and I don't necessarily, I'm not hating on them. It's great if you're a capitalist. But there's I see the trend that, okay, now you got to get the secure site. Now you got to get the top security on this, and this. And when GoDaddy and Amazon and Microsoft and Facebook all become one company, we're going to be like, dang, here comes the check. Because, and so it's, you have to stay on top of these things. And Ty, you said something prior about, it would be cheaper to, keep somebody on.
Alphabet.
Yeah. And it's always cheaper to keep someone on. It's cheaper to stay in the relationship you're in too. But people like to sometimes, go and see, I can make a whole new family and it'll be so much better.
Right.
Wrong. Never seen too many. I haven't seen too many people that are genuinely happy that have great discernment, because just like in business, in relationships, some people do not know how to pick the right employees, the right team members, and some folks don't know how to pick the right mate. And that's why I have my, semi-pro date doctor with 4 married couples under my belt, always looking for number 5. There's a plug that's not shameless.
Right.
Because we're going to use discernment, because I'm going to let you know that every person that you pick is going to be a problem. Just being with anybody is a problem. And,
but it's finding the problems you can deal with, though.
Exactly.
That's it. And
that's always based on what type of problem you are. So it's, so yeah, that's where we're at, and finding, once you find someone you're comfortable with, sit down, because it probably doesn't get much better than that.
So I think this is a good place to stop our dialogue for this episode and allow you, the listeners, to join the conversation and keep the dialogue going with us online.
You can do so by visiting our social media at Facebook, Diversified Game Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter, Game Diversified, online, diversifiedgame.com. In your life, with the people around you, or join our Patreon and get some nice perks for being involved.
If you found a nugget and are like today's episode, you might as well leave a review. And if you leave a review, you might as well share it. If you share it, you might as well subscribe. And as always, thanks for your support.
Thanks for getting in the game and listening to the Diversified Game Podcast with Kellen, Tyson, and AL. The #1 show pairing entrepreneurship with diverse and inclusive perspectives like wine and cheese, bagel and lox, fish and grits. Be sure to visit diversifiedgame.com for all the good stuff. Join in the conversation and discover more content.